Come, follow us
on our journey to get a low-budget
DIY
feature film from script
to screen and beyond.
Nobody knows who we are.
Look at yourselves, realistically, nobody's going to give you that money. Nobody. You don't know who the fuck you are. It's a complete risk. You are unknown.
This is our first feature film, something we're going to do together. You're going to get it warts and all.
For now, you're just some pair of idiots like everyone else.
Never wait for permission. You just have to start.
Give yourself something impossible to do, and then just find the bloody way of making that thing happen.
This is DIY Cinema Cult.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DIY Cinema Cult. Now, as you've noticed, this episode is bizarrely titled David Lynch and Wembley Park. As you may have caught at the end of our last episode on Lynch and his DIY cult debut feature film Eraserhead, during the research of that episode, I had learnt that following the success of Eraserhead, Lynch had temporarily moved to England to shoot his next film, The Elephant Man. And what's more, he was living in a rented house in Wembley Park. But the news of David Lynch's time in Wembley Park struck a very strong chord with me. You see, I used to live in Wembley Park back in the mid-90s. Despite being a film student, I was not aware in the slightest of the cinematic heritage that was sat right at my doorstep. You see, the reason why Lynch was living in Wembley Park was so that he was in close proximity to Lee International Studios, where he was shooting. The strange thing was, I had no idea where Lee International Film Studios were, or had been. And I had lived in Wembley Park for 2 years. So I decided to jump on a train, head back into London, and go and take another look around.
Welcome aboard this Southeastern service to London Charing Cross, calling at West St Leonard's.
In the research for that last episode, I read a book called Room to Dream by Christine McKenna and David Lynch. And you know, I was obviously zeroing in on the Eraserhead years. You know, that book does do a fairly detailed account of Lynch's work and life from the very beginnings right through to Twin Peaks, The Return. Read the whole book and I was led on to this stuff about him making Elephant Man, his next film after Eraserhead, which I knew was shot in London, okay? I'd always known that. I knew he shot in old Victorian long since now knocked down or converted into flats for hipsters, but you know, he was filming in old Victorian hospitals. But I then read in the book that the interiors were filmed in a film studio in Wembley Park. Now, I used to live in Wembley Park and I instantly thought, where the hell are these film studios? In the book, they call them Lee International Film Studios. Now, the only film studios, or the only studios I was aware of, were a weird, shabby collection of buildings that were called Fountain TV Studios. I remember seeing the sign up, but never really knowing what was going on inside there. And I thought it couldn't possibly be these old TV studios.
By all accounts, Lynch began the pre-production of The Elephant Man in much the same way as he worked on Eraserhead, and as we learnt in the last episode, that meant having a hand on every aspect of production and approaching the film in a very self-reliant and DIY mode. Here I am again on the train.
And what this book also revealed was that David Lynch was living in Wembley Park during the filming of The Elephant Man. It only gave a couple of lines, not too many clues to where the house was, but it did say that it was a house with a garage, because in that garage, way into the wee hours of the night, David Lynch was building the prosthetic effects, makeup special effects that were to go on John Hurt to transform him into the Elephant Man.
So because David Lynch was so used to working in his own unique way, when it came to create the design and application of the Elephant Man prosthetics, Lynch presumed that this was naturally a job for him, and he began work in earnest, creating the Elephant Man in the garage of his rented home in Wembley Park. Unfortunately, and maybe even obviously, this approach was misguided. With many failed attempts to create successful prosthetics, it was his leading actor John Hurt who finally had to call on the producers to intervene and hand the integral makeup and effects to a team of professionals.
So I need to know a little bit more about these studios, and that is where I am going today.
You are listening to the debut feature film podcast. This is DIY Cinema Cult.
It didn't take too long searching on the internet before I uncovered information on Fountain TV Studios, which had, of course, previously gone by the name of Lee International Studios. The entire area of Wembley Stadium and the surrounding neighbourhoods has been developed beyond recognition in the last 20 years, and I was sure that any sign of the old studios must now be wiped from the face of the earth.
Shortly arriving at London Charing Cross. In the interests of your safety and
But to my great relief, part of the original studios had now become the Troubadour Theatre, meaning that the arts were still alive and kicking in the area. I reached out and made contact with a lovely man at Troubadour called Victor, and it was to him that I was now headed to have a look around the old studio spaces.
that you cannot alight from the rear coach.
So I arrived at Charing Cross Station and headed to the Tube for my onward journey up the Metropolitan line to Wembley Park. It's a long journey. You certainly get the feeling that you are venturing into the outer reaches of London. Post First World War, a huge exhibition took place in Wembley to celebrate the British Empire. In 1927, Ralph J. Pugh and Robert Mason bought a lease to 35 acres of the old exhibition site with the dream of building a Hollywood-style studio in London. British Incorporated Pictures was formed, but in a rolling saga of failing finances and companies changing hands, the dream of the great British film studio didn't quite materialise. British Incorporated Pictures became Wembley National Studios, which became British Talking Pictures. Even Fox in the US had a lease on the studios for a while. In 1955, the studios were bought with the intention of being used for television, and they were for quite some time. LWT took on the studios for a while and left in 1972. The studios were left abandoned for a few years until the Lee brothers bought them in 1977 and turned them back into film studios, renaming them Lee International Studios. Films shot at Lee during this period include Quadrophenia, The Elephant Man, Time Bandits, The Princess Bride, Brazil, and even The Empire Strikes Back, which, when using up all of the stages at Elstree in 1979, overspilled to Lee in Wembley to film a few scenes. As I said before, I was living in a house full of film students in the 90s right next door, and we had no idea that all this had been going on. We even had a Quadrophenia poster up on the wall, and were completely ignorant of the fact that the film was shot in our neighbourhood, at the end of our street. So I finally arrived at Wembley Park and found myself a little early for my meeting with Victor at the Troubadour, so I couldn't resist a little stroll around the old neighbourhood.
Now, one road David Lynch could have feasibly lived on is the road I'm just turned into now, Brook Avenue, which is a stone's throw from where old Lee International Studios stood, and also just happens to be the road that I used to live on when I lived in Wembley Park. And even as I look at this road, so much development, you can hear all the building going on in the background. As I turned in, the entrance to the street is being transformed into new flats. The whole place has been transformed. But it's feasible that Lynch could have lived on this street. It would have been very, very convenient for Lee International Film Studios, literally across the street, just around the corner. Also the clue that David Lynch's house had a garage. There's one or two with garages on this street that could fit the bill. But there is the house I used to live in, still standing, hasn't been knocked down and turned into flats yet. Just noticed there that, of course, completely slipping my mind, I'd forgotten that house does have a garage. Very small one. My mate Marc, little Marc, used to park his bike in. But could that have possibly been the house that David Lynch lived in during the filming of Elephant Man? That would be a turn up for the books, wouldn't it? Anyway, let's carry on.
After taking a look at my old place, I walked back out of Brook Avenue and across an intersection with a petrol station at its centre. It is here you can clearly see on the other side of the petrol station the old studio buildings.
And I remember thinking, Fountain TV, what kind of rubbish could possibly get made in there, in Wembley Park, opposite a petrol station? How little I knew.
You are listening to the debut feature film podcast. This is DIY Cinema Cult.
By the late 80s, film production had almost fallen away from the studio's roster, and in 1989, Limehouse Television took over the Wembley site, and a new, highly productive television era began in Wembley, with shows like Have I Got News For You, Whose Line Is It Anyway, and The Word all being filmed there. In 1993, Fountain Television took over and utilised the enormous studios to create the big high-gloss Saturday night shows we are familiar with today, with Pop Idol, X Factor and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire all being produced there. I was excited to meet Victor and see the space, but before I headed in, I decided to have a bit of breakfast.
I can't imagine that David Lynch thought much of Wembley Park, to be honest. It wasn't that much in the mid-90s, and I can't imagine it was any better 20 years prior, in 1979. Yeah, I know he's a man who is a coffee connoisseur, loves a good cup of coffee, but unfortunately he was very, very far from Bob's Big Boy Cafe and a decent cup of coffee. He would have had to settle for a greasy spoon. I'm a bit early for my meeting, so maybe I should pop in and have a cup of tea. Hello, mate, how are
George,
you?
the owner, has had his cafe there for 30 years or more, and he tells me about the production staff from Fountain and Lee that used to come in and frequent his cafe.
Yeah, well, we had Limehouse Studios, we did the X Factor and everything. I remember the boys being in here when it was Limehouse.
Including those that were devising a new show called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. He also told me that Freddie filmed the last Queen video there. I had noticed George was a fan. Every inch of wall space in his cafe was decorated with photographs of either Spurs players or Freddie Mercury.
Great history there. And all this used to be Lee Electric.
Yeah.
Lee Electric was
George points out the window of his cafe across the street to the retail park beyond.
all this was Lee Electric from when I first got 84,
Yeah,
I started working in the
there
area.
and
But all this was Lee Electric, and they sold it. They went,
He's right, Lee Lighting, or Lee Electric, had their main warehouse there and supplied lighting to major film sets all over Europe, so it made absolute sense that Lee should have their own film studio there also.
all right, take care. Have a lovely day. See ya.
After leaving George's cafe, I headed across to investigate the retail park that would have once been Lee Lighting warehouses and studios 1 to 4 of the old Lee International Film Studios.
As I step out of the cafe, it's funny, you can actually see, looking back across towards the Troubadour Theatre, you can see, you know, facing the cafe we were sat in just now, what is now Lidl and Curry's, was Lee Lighting, which was essentially what then became Lee Studios. I'm turning into Fulton Road and I'm kind of going around the back of, now it's the back of a Curry's. This would have been the old Lee International Film Studios. The footprint of the Troubadour Theatre, which now stands where the Studio 5 once was, is only holds part of the original footprint of the Lee Studios. There is now a Curry's and a Lidl or something, or an Asda or some stuff. Troubadour Theatre is big though. I'm now looking at it from this viewpoint. It's actually a good viewpoint from around the back. It's huge. It's an incredible building. You can see why. You can just see that why it was the biggest purpose-built film soundstage in the London area at one time. And probably, if it was operational today, probably would still be the case. Okay, thank you.
So when I enter Troubadour, I immediately take a wrong turning. I go up a set of stairs in a production building and scare the absolute life out of one of the cleaners.
Sorry, I didn't mean to shock you. I'm so sorry. I'm looking at the stage door. Have I come to the wrong bit?
When I got to this stage,
Yeah.
But the kind lady sets me straight back on the right track and shows me the way to the stage door.
Scared somebody. My name's Marc. I'm here to see Victor. Thank you. Thanks very much.
I'm not waiting long before I am met by Victor.
Hello. Hello, Victor. How are you doing? Good. How are you? Very well, thank you.
Victor walks me into an absolutely huge space that is now the Troubadour Theatre, which had been the old Stage 5 of Lee International Studios. It looks large from the outside, but it isn't until you are inside that you get the full effect of the size of the space. 4 stories high, with even a motorised dividing wall that, although now decommissioned, used to, in the television days, turn one mammoth studio into 2 separate and still very large television studios.
I had no idea the heritage and I feel so ashamed. Fountain TV, yeah.
Well, this is the thing, I didn't know anything, and then you contacted me, and I was like,
Yeah.
well, I really, just what they've told me since working here.
Yeah.
And then I saw this video, and then they went into detail about the studio, and they showed footage and everything. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
now it makes sense.
So we walk into the main theatre space at Troubadour. They're currently fitting for a new production, as you can hear in the background. The first thing that strikes me about the place is that with its very stripped back aesthetic and its movable seats, the place just looks much less like your traditional theatre and far more like a movie soundstage.
Because what I was worried about was that, when I read all this stuff about the old Lee studios, and I knew how much development had gone on in this area, and I think I read somewhere it's set to become residential, right, as a lot of these kind of blocks are, the student housing and expensive flats and stuff, and I thought, is this place going to go the same way? And I was so pleased when I found out it was a theatre.
Oh, yeah, but it's on the chopping board.
You're joking me.
Yeah.
Oh, you're joking.
We don't have, we're looking to extend the license, or the rent, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But it is on the block.
Oh my God.
So it doesn't have much longer.
Wow. Do you know how long nothing can be?
We were only supposed to be for a couple of years, but now we're trying to get it extended again.
Right.
And we might, but I don't know how long. And
right.
But
oh, that's such a shame, because when I found out it was a theatre, I thought at least it's continuing the arts, or performance, live performance in some way.
Yeah, because I think after the studios closed, filming studios closed, they put it up for sale.
Yeah.
And then Troubadour came in and was like, we can use the space. So if they didn't, then probably some other developer would have come in and it would have been gone already. So Troubadour kind of did extend the life a bit.
Yeah, he really did.
So how long, we don't know.
And have you got, I guess with booking shows in, you don't know what, in terms of a future, is it fairly, you've got a couple of shows still to come through?
Yeah, we've got a couple of one-nighters coming up, and then we're still waiting to see what happens. There's stuff in the pipeline that we're not in the know yet, or we can't say anything, can't speak to it. But yeah, they're looking to get something for the winter, and then something for next year.
Yeah.
So at least we know this year, next year, but after that.
That's such a shame.
Yeah. So it's year to year, I think, for now.
I started listening to your first podcast. What the hell are these two guys talking about? I mean, generally, I'll be brutally honest. I'm going to be brutally honest because I think you two need it.
We need it.
Nobody's going to give you that money. If you two want to genuinely make a film, and not just talk about it, you have to do it yourself. That's your first film, and you have to get yourself out.
It really is a huge space. Yeah. I think I read that it was like the biggest, at the time when it was TV and film studios, it was the biggest purpose-built soundstage or TV studio in London, right?
Let's go this way. This way. So all this back here would have been sort of the canteen, right? Which we call now Studio 5.
I'm taken into Stage 5 restaurant that used to be the old canteen for Lee International Film Studios. The catering here was actually well known for having some of the finest dining of all the UK film studios. So maybe David Lynch did get a decent cup of coffee in Wembley Park after all.
This was all the dressing rooms for all the people.
Victor then takes me into the corridor of dressing rooms that were famed for featuring on X Factor when the cameras used to dip backstage. The walls are still lined with images of X Factor and Pop Idol contestants.
On the walls, and I wonder if these would have always been dressing rooms back in the film days as well, possibly.
So there's only been a few tweaks from the studios to the Troubadour.
Right.
I was more fascinated by this area as it would have been where John Hurt may have been given the final touches to his Elephant Man makeup.
Yeah, so all of this section here would have been additional.
There is one story that on the final day of filming on Quadrophenia, the young cast, fueled by alcohol, exuberant with completing the filming, went on a rampage and trashed the dressing rooms where I now stand.
We've got this corridor here.
As Victor takes me through more studios, we bump into the cleaning lady that I'd almost made jump out of her skin before.
Sorry for scaring you earlier.
No problem. Oh, you scared you? Oh, you went the so many doors. So this would have been all the tech booths.
Yeah.
Victor then showed me Simon Cowell's old dressing room, which was huge. Troubadour now use it as their boardroom.
Yeah, so this would have been the Simon Cowell.
Wow, nice big
room.
one. Nice big dressing room for him.
Yeah, totally. And then his own little private bedroom.
Oh wow.
Totally posh, eh?
Very nice.
So yeah, so again, we've still kept it.
Yeah.
And we're using more as a boardroom because it's the biggest room we have up here.
Yeah, yeah.
But back in, for the X Factor would have been his.
Very comfy.
I'm sure would have couch, bed, and
a
full bar and all of that.
It's like a hotel suite.
Totally. So this would have been that whole. Have you lost where you are now?
Oh, completely. Yeah.
Victor then opens the doors to a large rehearsal room at the very top of the Troubadour building. And one entire wall was windows, giving a fantastic view across the retail park and a clear idea of the old original footprint of Lee International Studios.
And that's our entrance over there. So this would have been studios 1 through 4.
I see. This is a great place to look at the footprint from here, isn't it? Because you can really see. So I'm looking out at the Currys, JD Sports, a Lidl, and this whole section would have been the TV and the film studios originally.
Yeah, and the offices.
Yeah. So where Currys and JD and Lidl, that would have been, they were stages as well, weren't they? Other stages
1 through 4. And
1 through to 4.
That was 5.
That was 5.
So when they say it was the biggest studio,
you
can sort of go, you can see it.
Well, it's incredible to think about the people who were here when they were shooting films here. Like I read there was scenes from Empire Strikes Back were filmed here. And
yeah, I found that out. I was like, I'm a total Star Wars geek, so I found out that Luke and the Swamp with Yoda was filmed in this one. And I was like, total geek. Total, yeah. So the Swamp scene.
Wow.
With,
well done for finding that out, because I was trying to hunt to find out which scenes it was. Yeah, and I think Brazil was filmed here, so De Niro would have been knocking around somewhere.
DIY Cinema Club.
Well, Victor, thank you for showing me around. It's been brilliant to see and to put it all into perspective.
Did you get enough of it? Did you take it all in?
Yes, I have. And it's just that.
As my visit to the Troubadour was coming to an end, what Victor had said earlier about the future being uncertain there for the Troubadour was really playing on my mind.
Well, that's kind of broken my heart to know that you guys are struggling to stay here.
Well, look, cross fingers.
I'll keep everything crossed for you.
Yeah, but as you can see it's all coming towards us.
Yeah.
Victor points up at the many, many new build blocks that seem to be bearing down ominously on us and the Troubadour Theatre.
You can't stop the
invasion
of these tower blocks. They're like giants just coming towards us, stamping over everything.
Because I remember, like, even like 5 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Like none of this was here. And there was a parking lot over there, and and now it's like. I'm just glad people are like recording it and saving it for later, so people can look at what they've lost.
I know.
It's
going to be sad to see it go. I'm keeping hope alive that it's not going to be the case.
Yeah, a couple more years, I hope.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh well, Victor, thank you so much.
No worries. I'm glad.
I really appreciate that. You've been very kind. Hope you have a good day.
Oh yeah.
Victor,
thank
you.
Much.
Have a good day.
Good luck with everything.
See you now.
Okay, bye.
Oh, it's made me feel a little bit sad. That has made me feel a little bit sad that we're about to lose a incredibly historically significant piece of our cultural history in terms of a studio in London that has such a rich and diverse heritage, history. You know, people walking by completely unaware that these were once great film studios. It did make me smile that Victor there, lovely man Victor by the way, he had just been recently learning about the legacy of those TV and film studios himself. And he told me something I didn't know, which was the pieces of the Empire Strikes Back puzzle that was shot in those rooms. And it was Luke finding Yoda and floating his X-Wing out of the swamp. Well, there you go. There you go.
I will never watch The Empire Strikes Back in the same way again. Luke wasn't joking when he said he had to travel to a distant corner of the universe to find the old Jedi Master Yoda. He had to go all the way to Wembley Park.
So I'm now walking through the car park of the retail park, which stretches out from the now Troubadour Theatre, Wembley Park Theatre. This is what I was looking out on earlier when talking to Victor. We stood up in those windows up there.
Before I headed home, I couldn't resist going inside one of the new retail stores to get a sense of the old studios 1 to 4. They are huge, by the way.
Hey mate, I was just having a look in these spaces. Did you know these used to be film studios?
No? Seriously?
Back in the 70s and 80s. Well, you know where the theatre is?
Yeah.
That was Studio 5. All of these were studios 1, 2, 3 and 4.
Wow.
And they,
I didn't know that one.
And they filmed like Empire Strikes Back was filmed here.
No, I did not know
loads
that.
of different films. I used to
live up Chalk Hill and I didn't even know that.
I lived in Brook Avenue, which was across the street. And I was a film student. And I found out and I was like, how did I not know? This is why I'm back, because I'm back to do an interview with the guy who works in the Troubadour Theatre.
Okay, yeah.
But I was
that
like,
is so interesting because
yeah, they filmed loads of anyway.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you know. So what was your name?
Darren.
Darren, I'm Marc. Have a nice day, Darren.
Yeah.
See you, mate. Nice guy, Darren. See, people just don't know these things. People just do not know. And the sad thing is that people don't know now, and very soon there'll be even less evidence of what used to be here. There'll even be less space. Darren working in Curry's, you know, that's how he knows this space, and hopefully now he'll go back and tell his missus and his kids, you know where I work? It used to be Dagobah system, and it's where Luke met Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back. And they'll be like, shut up, Dad.
Never wait for permission, you just have to start.
Marc and I have been following, how would you describe it, Marc? Chaos magic? Chaos magic? Chaos magic?
As I'm walking past the drive-through McDonald's, a little bit of evidence of the old life of these buildings. There's a Fountain Studios sign still on the corner of the building, which is now the front of Studio 5 restaurant, which I was inside of just earlier. And it's funny because I've never been on the inside of that building. I've often looked at it from the outside, but so nice now to see the inside of it and to know that it was the old Film Studios canteen, where no doubt David Lynch would have sat and maybe had a egg sandwich, which I know he was a fan of from reading his book. No doubt probably complaining about the state of the cup of coffee he'd been offered.
I took one last look around the place before jumping back on the tube and couldn't help imagine where it was that David Lynch may have lived, and dreamt that, just maybe, it might have been a place I knew very well.
Well, I've got a bit of time to kill before I have to get the tube back, and just been having a little walk around the old neighbourhood. What does strike me is that there's not that many streets in this area. Of course, I'm looking at the modern version, but I do remember what it was like in the 90s too. And Brook Avenue, where I used to live, and it's across the street from the old Lee Studios, is kind of the most convenient place. It's the most convenient place for someone to stay if you're working in the studios, particularly if you need somewhere with a garage. It is a street of semi-detached houses with garages. And I don't see much evidence of other streets. It is a stone's throw from the studio. David Lynch would have just had a 3-minute walk round the corner, but I'm beginning to think that maybe David Lynch used to live on my street 20 years prior to me living here in the mid-90s.
Of course, I'm probably far off the mark here, and it's going to be very difficult indeed to find out which street and exactly which house Lynch once lived in. Most of the people I talked to that day had little or no knowledge that The Elephant Man, or indeed any of the other great movies, were ever filmed there. I could ask David Lynch, I suppose, but how do you get hold of a man like David Lynch? He used to regularly frequent the chat rooms of davidlynch.com, but this doesn't seem to be operational anymore.
Dear Mr. Lynch, firstly, I'd like to give you...
I did hear, however, that he does read snail mail addressed to him and sent to his transcendental charity, the David Lynch Foundation. Worth a try, I thought, so I wrote David a letter.
Also, do you have any recollection of which road you lived on? I lived on Brook Avenue. Apologies for the strange question. I wish you true peace and creative flow. Marc Hardman. There we go. Stick that in the post to the David Lynch Foundation, Los Angeles. There goes nothing.
I also reached out to Victor to see how things were going at the Troubadour. Thankfully, they have secured a new production of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Starlight Express, which is running now until 2025. So for now, the arts and art spaces are still alive and kicking in Wembley. So if you're in London, maybe grab a ticket for the show and give them your support. And while you're watching the show, maybe think of all the other magic that has been created in the very room in which you are sat. From The Elephant Man to The Empire Strikes Back, or X Factor to Pop Idol, if that's more your cup of tea.
Follow us. We are DIY Cinema Club. On Instagram we are DIY_cinema_cult. Seek out the DIY Cinema Club group on Facebook. Like and subscribe and follow.